Hey everyone, it's Ferric, and welcome back to another video. Now, in this video, I did want to go over all the Spellments that I've gotten since the beginning of the spring update. For those of you that are a little bit out of the loop, they added Spellements for all spells rank 1 through 6. I believe before the spring update, they already had rank 1 and 2 spells upgradable, but they added more paths for tier. They added more tiers for the rank 2 Spellments, and then for the rank 3 to 6, they just straight up added tiers that didn't exist before. And for rank 1 they added separate paths to upgrade them now, so you don't only have one option to upgrade them. I know it's been a month since I've uploaded a video. I'll do a separate update video where I explain where I've been and what the schedule looks like going forward, but in this video I'm just going to showcase all the farming that I've done. I'm not going to really go over how to get them. I'm gonna do like a separate guide where I explain, the best ways to get them depending on your level or depending on where you are in the game. But for now, I just wanted to show them all off. So right here, as you can see, I have at least 685 of every Spellment. Now, if you click on a spell right here, there's 5 total tiers. From tier 1 to tier 2, you need 75. Then from tier 2 to tier 3, you need 115. Then you need, I believe, 190 to go to tier 4. And then for tier 5, you need 305 Spellments for a total of 685 Spellments to go from tier 1 to tier 5. And for spells that you don't unlock through Spellements, you do need, or for spells that you do unlock through Spellments, you need 35 initial. So for those spells, you need a total of 715 to be able to go from not having the spell to tier 5. But for these, you just train them from trainers because these are the standard rank 1 through 6 spells. For some schools didn't have certain rank spells, like for example Myth didn't have a single hit 6-pip spell, so they gave new spells to schools like that. But as you can see, for all of these schools, right there I have 685 Frost Beetle. I have 685 Spellments for every single school, which is enough to tier 5 all of them, and that includes balance as well. Hydro was the last spell I needed, and I got that to 685, so I'm all done with that. At this point, I'm gonna go ahead and transfer over all these spells. This is a new character I made on this account. This is my max account. I'm gonna go ahead and transfer these all onto my max characters, and I'm gonna tier 5 all these Spellments and take a look at them and kind of give my thoughts on the farming experience and whether or not it's really worth getting them all like this. Alright, we'll start off with Storm, and the first thing I'm gonna say right off the bat is they really need to make use of this wasted space right here. There's all this space right here and all it has is a reagents tab and a pet snacks tab. And when you're transferring over Spellments, it's really annoying because I have all these reagents in my shared bank, and I actually had to remove every single reagent except for certain ones that I just have too many of, like for example bones, brass, things like these. I literally have 1,000 of these on each character, so I literally cannot move these. I have to hold these in shared bank. So I really wish they have a separate tab for Spellments, considering some reagents take up so much space in this tab. They really need to make better use of it, because there's so many different types of reagents now. If I press J on my keyboard, I go to reagents. I mean, yeah, there's like harvest, there's harvest rare, shop, drop. At least they could at the very least give them these icons right here and separate the reagents tab so that you have these separate icons to search through them. You have event reagents, like now you have PvP ones, you had Decathlon ones, you have Beast Moon ones, and then you also have Spellements, which are separate. In fact, they're so separate that you can't even get double Spellements from double reagents events. So they really should not be in the same tab. That's just something I wanted to point out. But by the way, this video is just going to be the world Spellements, the rank 1 through 6 world Spellements, because those are the ones that have all been changed for this update, and those are the ones that people care about at max, because you get those Spellements early on, but they're also useful to upgrade at max level. So the way you upgrade the Spellment is just go to your deck right here, you press P, click the next page, go to the Spellment you want, click on it, and then you just press this upgrade button. Pretty straightforward. Now for Thunder Snake, I think it's pretty obvious the best path to go for is this path right here, because it does increase the pip cost of the spell, yes, but it gives it a really useful effect. And honestly, you don't really use Thunder Snake that much anyways. Like this damage increase is pretty negligible. I mean, it gives an accuracy increase as well, but I think it's always better to go the bottom path for this. So we're just gonna go bottom path. And here's one thing I'll point out right away. I have all the tier 5 Spellments, and a lot of people are like, hey, it takes too long to get them, or I really want to get tier 5. For a lot of Spellments, honestly, just having it at tier 2 is more than enough, and it saves you a ton of grinding. You only need 75. That's about 1/8 of how many, or 1/8 or 1/7, or basically it's a really small amount compared to max tier. but you get the same increase. Like the amount that it increases by is pretty much the same between tiers, like at least percentage wise in terms of how much value it adds to the spell. So honestly, like you could get tier 4 and that's about half the amount of grinding that you need to get tier 5. So you really don't need to tier 5 all these, but you know, me, I'm a completionist. I like having them completely maxed out. So we're gonna keep on going. Once you pick a path, at that point you just keep on upgrading it. And let me see, can I just keep on? Yeah, I guess I can just skip that. Oh wow, okay. You can like skip the animation for it kind of. And then there we go, last tier, tier 5. And one thing you will notice is that at tier 5 for some of these spellments, you get this little glow thingy right here. So if I actually upgrade this all the way, I'm just gonna go ahead and put in a thunder snake. If I can find it right there, there we go, thunder snake. And we'll just throw it in an enchant. And it visually, like, you can very clearly see that, like, even from this distance, you can see that it's definitely tier 5, has that glow on it. And actually I need mana, so let's grab this, fill it up. All right, we'll go into this fight. And I'm just gonna enchant it. So 495 to 535, and then it gives you a 20% blade. So I'm just gonna use that. Oh my goodness, it's glowing. It looks awesome. And then it also gives me a Stormblade back, which is cool at 20%. So that's tier 5 Thunder Snake right there. I'm going to go ahead and tier 5 the rest of my spells and just really quick. I'm not going to cast all of them, but just show like all the spells once they're tier 5'd. All right, I just finished upgrading all the storm paths, and here are the decisions that I made for them. So for Thunder Snake, obviously I went with the bottom path. I already showed that. I think the utility path is actually pretty useful. Getting a Stormblade back is nice. Now you might be wondering, like, you know, why would you do that when Storm Beetle literally exists, right? So like, and I'm actually gonna pull it up right here. This Storm Beetle right here. These 1-pip Storm Beetles exist, and it gives you a better blade for less pips. Why would I go the bottom path for Thunder Snake when that exists? Well, for one, you're limited to 4 of them, and you know they could also potentially in the future maybe even disable that pet card because of the existence of this. But also there's just really no use to having this higher damage Thunder Snake, because if I really want damage, I can just upgrade my lightning bats. When you're max level, you typically have high pip chance anyways, so I'd much rather use 2 pips to do more damage if I really cared about damage. But for PvP purposes, I think this is better. But right now, it is in a weird place because TC Beetles give you, I believe, like a 30% blade back for the same pip cost for 2 pips, and the main deck Beetles are 1 pip, and they still give you a stronger blade. So Thunder Snake is a weird spot, but obviously I think the bottom path is the best for that. For lightning bats, the reason why I chose the top path was because this right here doesn't really interest me. It increases the pip cost to 3, and then it removes a dot. But when you have a spell like Kraken, and for Kraken I chose the bottom path, it's 1 more pip, it does more damage, and it has the same condition where it clears a dot on yourself, but then it puts a weakness on the enemy. So I'd much rather do that for 4 pips than just remove a dot for less damage and for only 3 pips. So that's why I just chose the damage path for it, because in PvE, if I ever want to, you know, carry a separate hit for like a finisher hit or whatever, there are some farming strategy where if I'm farming something low level but then I fail crit, I'd rather have, you know, the damage on it than and the lower pip cost. So that's why I chose the damage path for that. Obviously, so Kraken I already explained. Storm Shark. I could have gone the damage path in this as well, but this is actually an interesting condition because it's kind of interesting. I decided to keep it. So I decided to keep the damage path rather, and it also doesn't increase the pip cost like Thunder Snake and Lightning Bats would. Then for tier 5, I mean, if I Elemental Bladed, the thing is I'm probably not going to Elemental Blade in a match. So I don't know, maybe for Storm Shark I could also go the top path. It just, the double blade seemed kind of interesting to me. But this right here, if I wanted to, like, I can clear charms on myself to add 115 damage for a maximum of 4, but if I have 4 charms on me, at that point I'd rather just go for my Scion Gambit, which does a crazy amount of damage. Right here, it does 2800 base damage if I have 4 blades on me. So if I ever even had blades, which I probably wouldn't go for blades a lot on a Storm, just because Storm has so much damage, you can just like spam hits and like just pressure like a Rustalka. That's kind of the meta right now. I'm just gonna go with this path. And also, like, in PvE you start off with 5 pips, so if I want to like first turn Stormzilla for like a ton of damage, I'd much rather go the damage path than that. And then last is Triton. I went the conditional path here because, one, 6-pip is kind of useless for PvP, first off, because if you actually check right here, there's the Triton TC does 920 base damage. That's the maximum amount that a tier 5 damage enchanted Triton does. And then on top of that, there's a spell like this right here, Plague Oni, or Oni no Plague. It does it literally does more than a tier 5 Triton. So, and in PvP, you can't enchant your spells anyways. So, tier 5 damage path Triton is just useless for PvP. And in PvE, I'm not going to ever start off with 6 pips anyways. So, I don't need to damage and upgrade it. So, that's why I went this upgrade right here, because this could do 1,155 damage if I have a dot on me, which is pretty interesting. That's literally as much as an 8-pip. That's more than an 8-pip King Artorias. So that's why I chose the utility path for that. Now, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for other schools. I probably won't do an explanation like I'm doing here for every single school, because this video is going to be way too long if I do that. But I'll just go ahead and upgrade all the spells to tier 5 just to show that I have them all at tier 5. Just, you know, just to see this like little whatever out of maxing. I did get a lot of extra spellments for a lot of schools. I'll go over that more when I talk about I'm gonna do a separate video where I talk about how exactly I got these, and then like a separate guide as well. So in that video I'll probably explain why I have excess spellments, but for now I'm gonna go on my other characters, tier 5 all my spells, and then just showcase them all, and that'll be this video. Alright, here are the spell paths that I chose for Fire. So for Fire Cat I went the utility path. For Fire Elf I went the utility path. Although wait, interesting. So Fire Elf, unlike Storm, Fire Elf actually doesn't increase in pip cost when you do this. That's interesting. I just realized that. Sunbird, I went the utility path. Immolate, I actually went the damage path. This is again for PvE purposes. Phoenix, I went the utility path, and Hellfin, I went the utility path. Alright, for Ice, for Frost Beetle, I chose the utility path. For Snow Serpent, I chose just the damage path. Evil Snowman, I obviously chose the utility path. This one is one of the best spellments of all 42 spells, or however many there are. This is like probably the best one in my opinion. Ice Wyvern, I chose the utility path. Blighthound, I chose the damage path. And then Colossus, I chose the utility path. Alright, now for the Spirit Schools. So for Dark Sprite, I chose the utility path. For Ghoul, I chose the damage path, which actually increases the amount that you get back from the drain. For Banshee, I chose the utility path for the extra weaknesses, for the extra negative charms rather. Vampire, chose the utility path. Skeletal Pirate, I chose the utility path because tier 5 Skeletal Pirate literally does less than Headless if you just choose the damage path. At least with this, it has a chance of doing more than Headless. I don't know, Headless is just in a weird spot. It's just such a good spell that I just don't ever see myself packing this spell in PvP, but you know, that's Skeletal Pirate for you. Wraith, I chose the damage path, and that's what I did for Death Spellments. Alright, for Life Spellments, I chose Imp. I chose the utility path for the 5-round heal over time. For Leprechaun, I just went damage. For Nature's Wrath, I chose this. This is one of those spells that I think is actually really good at tier 5 because you get, I mean, you literally get like a full life blade if your health is more than 50%. So you can literally hit and get like just a full blade, which is pretty nice. For Seraph, I chose the utility path. This literally gives you a hit and shift. Life is a school that should have had shift because of its place on the Rochambeau wheel, so it's pretty nice that you get a spell that can also hit now and also shift. But and then for Earthwalker, I chose the damage path. The reason being is because if I do have multiple like this, I really only see the value in this if I have multiple traps on me. But then if I have multiple traps on me, I'd much rather use a spell like this right here. Sorry, not this. This one. I'd clear the traps and then I'd get a blade on myself. But then for that one, like all I get is damage. I'd much rather get the damage from the blades and also clear the traps rather than keeping the traps on me. So that's why I chose the damage path for that. For Centaur, I just chose the utility path because of how well it works with Imp. So that's why I chose that. Alright, next up is Myth. For Bloodbat, I chose the utility path. In fact, I believe for all these, I just chose the utility path because the Myth utilities are actually kind of interesting for one. And for another, I mean, the one where I probably would have gone damage, which was this one right here, because the utility on it is so weird. Like it does like 622 if you have a weakness on you. It does more damage if you have a weakness on you, but the damage that it does because of the weakness is going to be like barely more than the initial damage. It's just such a weird spell, dude. Like, but like the reason why I didn't choose this one right here is because Ninja Pigs is a 5 pip spell that just does 20 damage less. So why would I spend an extra pip to do 20 more damage at tier 5 when I can just Ninja Pigs, you know? But maybe this will have a use later on where if someone accidentally infections you, then you can do more damage. I don't know, dude. It's a weird spell, but I chose utility on all the Spellments. And then for this minion right here, the health one, I'd much rather give the minion more pips so I can use the pips to do useful stuff. The health, I mean, it really just depends on the amount of pips that you use to affect the health a lot. An extra 70 health I don't really care about because it's still going to be within kill shot range for like a wand hit for the lower pip minions, and honestly even the high pip minions, if they crit their wand hit, it's probably going to kill it. Minions are in kind of a weird spot right now, so that's why I chose that. But anyways, one more school left, which is balance. These are all my paths for the myth spellments. I'll just show them real quick. There you go, all those are maxed. All right, last but not least, we have balance. Now for Scarab, I chose the utility path, the bottom path, because the trap is interesting, and honestly this spell could be used on more than just balance, so because it is a universal trap. For Scorpion, and this is where I probably shouldn't have called it utility path, because for Scorpion you get utility on both ends, but I chose the top path because I feel like keeping it at 2 pips and a mantle is much more useful than whatever that is. Steal, like remove 1 pip from enemy. I think that's pretty bad. Next up is Locust Swarm. I chose the bottom path because what I've seen in PvP a lot is Storm Wizards are using that Thunderbird spell, the mutate spell that puts on 3 universal traps. So with this spell right here, you can swap the traps on the enemy, and then now you remove their traps, did some damage, and now you have 2 universal traps on them, which is pretty nice. So that's why I chose that. Plus, because you do use off-school hits on balance a lot, even swapping like a fire trap, for example, or probably not fire because fire can swap them right back to you, but like other schools, if they trap you, then you can still make use of their traps. So it's pretty interesting. For this one right here, Gearhead Destroyer, I think it's very obvious to go for the bottom path because you can literally, it's the same thing as Life one, except you can also steal a heal over time. So it's literally a shift and a snowdrift attached to one spell, which is kind of insane. Hydra, I want the blade path because the enemy blades a lot, and then you get the full damage if you just hit while they have a blade up. So, I mean, the shield path is probably the second best. This one's probably the worst path because not all schools use damage over times, but every school uses blades and every school uses shields. And with the shield path, you're probably gonna lose damage if you're hitting through a shield. So that's why I chose the blade path. And then finally for Spectral Blast, this one honestly, I'm not really sure how you'd use this in PvP, so I just picked the top path because it keeps it at 4 pips and I can use it in PvE. But yeah, this one's a weird one. But anyways, those are all 42 spells at tier 5. Those are the paths I chose. Now, I could be wrong on some of the paths. Another path might be better. Some of the reasons I had were for PvE, some of them were for PvP. But in general, the way I went about it was, if I don't see a use for the spell in PvP or a use for that path in PvP, I just went the damage route because in PvE, it's always nice to have extra damage most of the time. At least right now without hard mode. Maybe once hard mode comes out, there will be uses for the other paths there too, but for now, that's what I chose. So anyways, let me know your thoughts on my decisions below in the description. I'll definitely be releasing a video on what I did to get the Spellments, and then also a separate Spellment guide. And now that I'm back to uploading videos again, obviously I have not posted videos in a while, but I'm back to uploading videos. I'll have more guides out, and I'll have an update video where I'll explain more on that. But anyways, I appreciate all the support in this video as well as all the other videos in the past. Thank you all so much for watching. Much love. Stay safe out there wherever you are. Have fun. Enjoy the game. And as always, have a good evening.